Hey, Frank.
Hey, what's going on, Pat?
I'm heartbroken.
Why?
United almost pulled it off. I don't even want to talk about Barcelona. Yeah, I do. I just want to tell you I don't want to talk about
Yeah, I know the feeling at times. I do definitely. Yeah. So what was that? You texted me. We were driving to Baltimore today. That's why we just got here. But um, you said about PSG. Congrats to PSG.
props to PSG. Yeah.
What they do?
Let's say in the 30 something minute. Okay.
Hmm.
You can verify all this stuff. I'm just going to give you the Reader's Digest version because I was watching, well, I was yelling at the TV when I had the Barcelona game on, and then I was yelling at the TV when the United game was on. And then I got very frustrated and went over to the PSG game, and I said, "Oh, what the hell's going on?" So I might be a little off. But anyhow, here's what happened. There was a bench penalty to Istanbul.
Okay.
Okay, and when the referee went asked the fourth official, "Who's it on?" The fourth official said, "The black guy,
This black guy.
or the black guy, or the black one, or whatever it is."
I just looked it up as you were talking about it. Yeah.
So and he was an assistant coach. He wasn't the head coach.
Right.
Uh, because I think he would have been able to give the head coach his name
Right.
or said the head coach.
Right.
And lots of yelling and screaming and carrying on for a good 20 minutes to the point where finally Istanbul said, "We're out. We're
Hmm.
done. We're not coming back." And then PSG stood and looked at the referee and said, "We're going with them."
Nice.
Yeah. And I was like, "All right, cool." That's why I
Yeah.
said props to PSG. That's
Yeah.
how that turned out. Around 4 o'clock, they finished. They came. Everybody came back on the pitch and finished out the first half, and then halftime, and then the game. But PSG didn't even blink an eye. Just like, nope, we're out too.
Nice.
I
That's
thought
awesome.
that was I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Definitely.
Even though I'm not a big PSG fan,
Yeah, and you might even be less of a PSG fan, or I don't know, maybe more of a PSG fan if Messi goes there. I don't know which way it'll go for you, but I
whoa, really?
that's some of the scuttlebutt.
I was watching the Barcelona Juvie game today just to see if jeez, if him and Ronaldo were even talking. Because if they were like talking to each other at all, I'm like, come on, tell them to go to juvie, get them going to juvie, because my lifelong goal is to see these two play together, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Now Nick's
yeah.
telling me that BBC saying that uh, um, Chevy is willing to pay part of the salary to get him to go to United.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, think about all the eyes that would be on that on that club, on that logo.
You know what? At this point, honestly, uh, and I think you'll agree with me, he should have been out of there at the beginning of this year.
Well, he wanted to be,
Yeah, and it
and
would have been, it would have been best for everybody if he was.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because then you look at the season and say, well, it's a rebuilding year, and you're not relying upon him so much, and any of the results are kind of like you have to accept the fact that they're going without your big gun, and it's not as kind of a big as a shock as things happen now. Um, and you let him have a chance to kind of go out on his terms, and it didn't have to be the way it was. It was really ugly. It got ugly.
and God knows Barca needs the money.
Yeah,
Because now they're going to lose him.
yeah.
They're not going to get anything for him.
Which
Speaking of
that's kind of,
losing, Lou, um, 11-1.
Yeah, they didn't look good the last two games.
No, I watched the game before, and they look like garbage then.
yeah.
They looked out that the game before. You can tell that was a rivalry game, right?
Yeah.
Too many drop balls.
And a lot of people were saying yesterday, a lot of the talking heads, I mean, Dejan Kovacevic, who I like to read, and what's his name? Pompiani from KDK, who he's watched a lot, he's watched a lot of football games. He said they look tired. Like during the game he was reporting, I was watching his Twitter feed. He said, these guys look really tired out here. And that was when they were winning. And so it's like, it's just a lot. It's a lot. And there's no excuses. Look, everybody's got to put up with that throughout a season. That's why there's no undefeated teams. It's so hard, just so hard to do. Give Washington credit for coming out and sticking in there and playing the way they did.
But we lost to a no-name team.
Yeah, you got to tip your hat to the opposition sometimes and say they did what they had to do. We didn't do what we had to do.
The part that bothers me about that team, and it really doesn't bother me a whole lot because I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm a Raiders fan. But what bothers me about that team is whenever you can sit in your living room and predict what the opposing team is going to do,
mm-hmm.
and they're still getting 6, 8, 10, 12 yards off of that.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing on the sideline?
Well, what you're seeing is Dupree and Devin Bush missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was two keys right in the middle. So now you got two guys with no experience and half the ability.
Wait, what's his name? Still a freaking beast, though, that number 90.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're that makes a difference.
TJ Watt.
They help the secondary. They help the front. It's two key pieces for them.
To see if they could find them. And I really wasn't that disappointed with their defense yesterday. I mean, I think that certainly giving up 20 points in the second half is not good. But if you look at why it happened, I mean, everything works together. The offense stays on the field and converts some drives, and the defense doesn't have to have that much stress on them. I really put yesterday defense. I mean, there was no creativity. They ran the same pass plays over and over and over again. They had no run game. Their offensive line doesn't seem to open up any holes. James Conner not being there is a big issue. But I mean, Benny Snell runs hard. If there was an open hole, he's going to hit it and go. There's no holding.
No, there really wasn't. I kind of agree with you, Frank. I was not impressed with them offensively at all. And really, honestly, if it wasn't for a couple of big plays that Roethlisberger made the game before, including throwing some floater between three defenders, that I don't know too many people on the planet have the balls to make that throw.
Right.
They lose that game too.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been fortunate to be where they are. I'm not going to complain because that's the fact of the matter. We've been lucky to be where we are, and to have a little bit go the other way, it's just what it is. I want to see them bounce back and play well against Buffalo. They got to play well against Cleveland.
The only thing I said was, it wasn't Baltimore that broke the streak for them.
Yeah.
And actually, that was a good game to lose because it doesn't count against them like the loss does against Kansas City because it was the other conference.
Thanks to the AFC also beating Kansas City. Yeah.
Should have beaten the place.
Yeah, they have.
The Kansas City game killed us. It absolutely killed us. That loss took us from wild card to maybe a wild card.
Yeah, and you talk about National Football League parity. They talk about Kansas City 11 Steelers. I don't know if you heard it during the broadcast last night. Kansas City's won their last 5 games by a total of 15 points.
Yeah. They barely beat Denver in Kansas City this past weekend. They've got the Saints. They've got the Saints as one of their next 2 opponents. We'll see what happens there because the Saints are legit.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Guess who beat the Saints?
The Raiders.
Let's get busy.
All right.
There's no news, is there?
No. Frank, let's talk about Texas for a minute.
All right.
Figure you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So after you explain this garbage to us that Texas is suing 4 battleground states in the Supreme Court over quote unlawful election results in the presidential race. Um, just walk us through this, because then I got a huge question for you after you're done.
I mean, I guess they're going to try to say that somehow they're harmed by, by being a part of the collective, that that everybody's going to be have to have some expectation of fairness and parity, so to speak. But honestly, I got to be honest with you. I don't know how they even have standing to do this, because each state has their own election laws that are run within the state, and it's states' rights. You know what I mean? So to have one other actually set of states, I honestly think this is going to get bounced, just like we saw something else get bounced, which I'm expecting to talk about a little bit too here. But I kind of feel like that's going to be the same similar treatment. Like the expectation is going to be, you're going to see one line saying GTFOH essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't see them having standing. And if they even have standing, how do they overcome state legislatures enacting their own laws to govern their own election rules that have been in place since the primaries, that weren't challenged at the time of the primaries, then saying, that the results that you got as a result of these laws is somehow unfair? I mean, it's so, how do you prove that? What is the standard of fairness that they're placing this on? Because their candidate didn't win? I mean, I just can't see it going anywhere.
My question then is, and let's just assume, just so I can ask my question,
Mm-hmm.
that the Supreme Court is going to look at this suit with some merit.
Okay.
What's to stop Wolf or our AG, what's his name?
Shapiro.
To turn around and go back to the Supreme Court and say there were entire counties in Texas that only had one polling place? That had a negative impact on our voters, because they thought it was like that everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's to stop them from doing that?
Nothing. I mean, to say that, basically, like, let me back up for 1 second. We do have the right as states to sue other states or have disputes among states, and the Supreme Court has to hear those disputes, because what other forum would there be?
Right, there wouldn't.
Right. But the point being, the basis of this complaint is about one state or 4 states' administration of their own election laws. It wasn't an impact between states. Like, it's tenuous at best to say that what happened in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and what's the other 4th state that they went after? Wisconsin, maybe?
Wisconsin.
Yeah. So what happened in those states had some direct effect on the voting in Texas. And that's where I think the problem is when I say the standing issue comes into play, because you've got to have some impact. And it's very tenuous to say, well, because our people in Texas voted in enough numbers to send our electors for Donald Trump, their electors are basically canceled out by these other 4 states. But that's the way the election works. I mean, that's what happens. So, I think their standing is really at issue here because of that. If you had a case where you said, well, and I'm going to get to your question in a second. If you had a case where you said, well, the way you've decided to administer the vaccines that are coming out has impacted Texas citizens, because Pennsylvania has basically said we need to give 4 doses of the vaccine to Pennsylvania residents as opposed to 2. And then that takes away from Texas residents' ability to actually have the vaccine. Then you're impacting actual Texas residents. But Texas residents weren't impacted. Their ability to vote was still there. Their ability to cast their vote, to send their electors to do what they wanted to do, is still there. It has no direct impact on Texas residents. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And just the same as what you said. So could our Attorney General Shapiro say, well, there was a bunch of counties in Texas that were impacted by only having one polling station, and indirectly, we in Pennsylvania suffered because of that, because maybe, who knows, Democrats could have been elected to certain seats that would have sent them to the House of Representatives, that would have sent them to the Senate, and we could have had better lawmakers in Washington, D.C., according to the way we feel here in Pennsylvania. So, yeah, it's asinine, quite frankly. I'm sorry, but that's really what it falls into.
Frank, these guys, or Lou, I'm sorry, these guys are the gift that keeps giving, right? It's like Republican Hanukkah.
You know what? And this guy too, isn't he up for fraud charges?
Yeah, he is.
Is he looking for a Trump pardon? That's all that was about?
You think? What else? Well, they'd have to be federal charges, and I don't know if they are or not. I mean, if it's election fraud, that's federal, isn't it, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's election fraud, then.
Yeah. I'm not sure what he's quite up on, but it's just.
Maybe he needs
you know what? The Democrats got to take advantage of all this bullshit and have the proper messaging.
Yeah.
You talk about they shot the Rosenbergs because of being traitors back in the 50s. Christ, they didn't do anything compared to this administration and these enablers.
Well, that leads to a good question though. Well, how do you get so many of these people? Right? If you're gonna round these people up and start charging them and start taking them to court or whatever, he's got to do something in 4 years other than this.
Yeah, that's it too.
All 4 years.
Lou, what you said before about the fairness doctrine, we got to get back to that again, because that's where the problem is. When you've got all these people brainwashed by all this fake news and all these lies constantly bombarding them, and reining in Facebook is another thing, and start changing the tone around that. It's going to take a while. But we got to get that back, because otherwise you're going to keep creating these monsters. It's like, recruiting of jihadists. They recruited them, they radicalized them, and that's what's been done here. They've radicalized people around this message of crazy fascism, but they've wrapped it in the idea of patriotism.
You have 70 million Americans that don't believe real news.
Right.
Who do you think's done a better job at curtailing this? Facebook or Twitter?
Well, Twitter forced a lot of people over to Parler.
Yeah. So I guess indirectly they did, huh?
Indirectly, yeah. Facebook's up Trump's ass. I mean, Zuckerberg got orange Cheeto dust all over his nose.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. I've said for the longest time, the best thing that could happen to the world is if Facebook suddenly collapsed. Right? It's still the best thing. And I hear people say, well, that's the only way I can talk to my family. It's the only way we can see my nieces or nephews. And I'm like, you got a freaking phone. How come somebody text you a goddamn picture?
Yeah.
They got to take the time to put it on Facebook. They can take the time to send it to you.
Just as easy to, when you hit the share button, is Sue, here's a picture of little,
little
Melissa.
Annie. Yeah. It can't be that hard.
No. You could have.
I think, here, let me put you what the issue is. You're keeping up with the nieces and nephews of the parents you don't actually want to talk to.
Yeah. It's true.
I don't know too many kids, though, that don't have a phone.
Yeah.
You couldn't text, you couldn't talk directly to. I mean, school age kids anyhow. Right? It's great. This thing's garbage. It would be very difficult to regulate Facebook. It'd be much easier to regulate Twitter. right? There's not a whole lot of different branches with Twitter, right? It's just a constant run of posts. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Be much more difficult with Facebook because of all the different things that you're capable of doing with it. Be a very, very hard thing to do.
Well, what they're going to try to do, there's people that are much smarter than me, and they got a lot of minds on it. But what they're going to try to do is go after the antitrust actions, and they're looking at, the fact that they've kind of bought up all these different tentacles. They've got Instagram, they've got, how many different things did we see when we first started this podcast, how they layered in so many different things that used to be independent entities into Facebook. So they've got a monopoly, and I think they went after Google, and in Europe they've gone after Google successfully on some of this stuff. So I think that's where they're going to get Facebook. And if you weaken them in that regard, it's just taking a little chunk out here and there. And you do that over time, and you start to create, let's face it, it's not going to be what it is 10 years from now, because, as you said, the younger generation doesn't want to use it. They pulled the younger generation in through Instagram. But if you start to weaken them in that way, they're not going to be around. Not they are now.
Yeah, I agree. The more you chip away, and you just let their biggest demographic just continue to grow old, right? You got to play the long game with these. It's kind of like Fox Entertainment, right? You got to play the long game with them.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see a shift there a little bit too. I don't mean what's happening there, but you're starting to see MSNBC sort of start creeping up there. And before we get back into the presidential thing, did you see who's running MSNBC now? Or who's it going to be?
Yeah, I did see that today.
Oh, why am I having a hard time finding her name? It confused the hell of me. I was like, Rashida Jones. That's it.
Rashida.
And I was,
Do you think do you think that maybe they saw something with Joy and Rachel during this last year, and Nicole?
Well, what's their 3 highest ratings?
Right there.
Yeah, Nicole Wallace, Joy Reid, Rachel.
And no one at 9 o'clock is scoring more eyeballs than Maddow is. Nobody anywhere. I mean, not even Tucker's getting her numbers. Well, sometimes they go back and forth, but
especially in that younger age spread.
Yeah. You know why? Because she doesn't treat her audience like idiots.
Right.
It's amazing how that works. But you got your three biggest draws, all female. And think about it. You got a straight white woman, you got an African American, you got a gay white woman, and they're kicking ass everywhere. That's got to show you how you need diversity and you need acceptance of other things, or it's going to hurt you.
You're going to die on the vine, basically.
Yeah.
You're going to die on the vine. That's what's going to happen to the dinosaurs like Fox News if they don't adopt that kind of business model, because the community that's going to be, whatever's left of watching television, is going to gravitate away from them.
Yeah, and that's the other big thing too, Lou. Our generation, well, mine and Frank's, may be the last television generation. I don't know too many millennials that actually watch TV. Maybe they watch a show here and there, but they're not, maybe on Tuesday night they're watching something, but they're not watching TV every day. And, the Gen Zers they want nothing to do with television. They don't even game on televisions anymore, right? They're still using their phones for that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with these networks? We've talked about this before. What are these networks going to do? Well, so I get on my Roku, I have an MSNBC app, or I have a Fox News app, but I go to that app and I'm watching the network.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a dying breed. I want to put one last little bow on that Supreme Court, the lead out that we had, the Supreme Court thing. I said that I think they'll put a one-line answer to this stupid complaint that Texas has filed. So just for the viewers who haven't had a chance to look at it, basically we talked a little bit about state versus state and where you go with the dispute for state versus state. The only place you can go for a legal dispute is the Supreme Court, but you have to ask for, it's called a writ. You have to ask the Supreme Court, can we even bring this case before you? And you need 5 of the 9 justices to say, yes, this case can come before us. If you don't get 5 of the 9 to say the case comes before you, it goes away. So right there, I think you've got an issue where you're not going to get 5 of the 9. And that's where I'm talking about this one line thing's going to come out. And it's just going to say, after consideration, a majority of the justices voted against hearing this case. And that's it. They don't even talk about the merits. It just doesn't come before us. So I think that's the way that goes.
I think that just happened with Mike Kelly's case. They told him they denied even hearing it.
Yep. We're just going to get into that, Lou.
Look at that timing.
Look at
Perfect.
That was perfect. This is I'm gonna read real quick from this is the Erie Times. Okay. Just 3 paragraphs. They're only like a sentence long each, but the last one is great. U.S. Rep. Mike Kelly lost his attempt to get to the U.S. Supreme Court to invalidate the results of the presidential election in Pennsylvania. The Supreme Court rejected Kelly's request in a one-line order issued shortly after 4:45 p.m. Tuesday. Justice Samuel Alito had been assigned the case. And here is Justice Alito's order. The application for injunctive relief presented to Justice Alito by him referred to the court is denied. Period. That was it. That was the only thing that the Supreme Court said about it. Frank, I'm going to ask you again. We asked it last time. Are they telling people? Are they telling states? Are they telling these guys, leave us alone? We don't want to hear this shit.
Yeah. We speculated on this last week. There was a little bit of just a teeny little grain of doubt in my stomach about this because he's got, when I say Trump has 3 appointees on this Supreme Court, so there was always just a little tiny fear about that possibility. But the fact of the matter is, look at what was done. The case was referred to Alito, Justice Alito, somebody that's got some legs, some experience, a little longer in the tooth. He's been on the bench, but he's a Republican appointee. I mean, he's a Republican appointee. So whoever can try to assail his character by saying, well, he's for the other side. No, he's not. Okay, but he made very short work of this, as you read. He made very short work of it, and he's saying very clearly. I mean, sometimes it's what you don't say, right, that sends the message. He didn't have to speak volumes in writing. All he had to say was, we're not having it. We're not having it, period. So where do you go from there? If you're trying to bring cases in front of the Supreme Court to somehow invalidate this election or get the election overturned, where's your guidance from that? The guidance is clear. We're not having it. I mean, we're not giving you any guidance. We're not sending you any roadmap to say, come back with this or that. It's just done. It's done.
Yeah, it's basically whenever the kid asks you why not, and your answer is because I said so. Yeah. I don't have to explain myself to you. No, you don't need to know why. Just no. And yet Texas is going to try again anyhow, or try this anyhow.
Good luck.
You know how this is going to work, and how it's really going to be a kick in the balls. As if it goes to Kavanaugh or to what's her name, and they pretty much do the same thing, right? They just say no. That's it.
What would even be better at this point? I mean, I would love that. That would be fantastic. But how about this scenario? They don't do anything. They hear other cases. They do other things. And they say this is in line behind 100 other cases that are more important at this point. After the inauguration on January 20th, like, the 3rd week of March, after everything's died down, they say, oh, yeah, about that Texas case, it's denied.
I think it's pretty safe to say, and I understand I might be going on a bit on a limb, or a small limit, but we are going to have a Democrat in the White House come January 20th. That's, I think, it was a foregone conclusion a month ago, or damn near a month ago. Nothing's changed. Nothing's going to change. Everybody knows that. So we're now at 42 days, something like that.
31 days in January was what, the 8th right now. So we got 23 days, and then
43.
43 days. Yep.
43 days.
Yep.
Guess what Melania is doing?
Playing tennis in her new tennis
She's in
compound.
the tennis pavilion. Yep, because that's what you do with 40-some days left, living in your house. You got an eviction notice. Okay? You got an eviction notice and you build a tennis court.
And that was yesterday, right? Wasn't that done?
It came out, the Guardian was yesterday, yeah.
So what else was yesterday, guys? What was the date yesterday?
December 7th.
And besides it being my wife and my dad's birthday, which is much more meaningful to me in my personal life, but for the country, what's December 7th?
Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day.
Then something happened in the 49th state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did our Twitter in chief say a damn word about the people that lost their lives and the importance of that day to the United States of America yesterday?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nope.
No. Did our incoming president-elect say anything about that? You're damn right.
And the first lady was out playing tennis because that's what was important.
And a pavilion she built, knowing that come next month she's out.
Yep.
These people just don't give a fuck.
No.
They really don't. Even just to show a little bit of class, you think you wouldn't do something like that, right?
Money can't buy class. We see that.
No. It can buy a lot of things. It can't buy you class.
Class, dignity, or integrity.
And I've been saying for 5 years. I've been saying for 5 years that when he announced he was running, up until this very day, I've said the same thing. She's as bad as he is. He's just proud being that bad.
Yeah.
Right? He just wants you to know he's that bad.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. That's the only difference. And people were talking about, oh, she's not happy, and they make her out like she's some sort of like she's trapped there or something. No. She's every bit as bad as he is. Who hates Christmas? Come on.
And always projection, right? It was never the Democrats' war on Christmas. It was them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awful. These folks are absolutely freaking awful. And just to show how bad, and I know we're kind of bouncing around. Let me throw this one up from Business Insider. By the way, it's another one that people should be watching if they don't. Okay, because Business Insider is pretty damn good too.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Something that I believe it or not, Frank, I stumbled upon it by accident. I really did. This should not surprise anybody. Okay, that's all I'm going to say is this headline should not surprise anybody. Whoops, there you go. Right? It's about viewers. Do you believe this?
What a joke.
At this point, you just have to refer to him as the clown in the White House. Right? He's just the clown in the White House now.
Yeah.
He's planning a made-for-TV exit to steal attention from Biden's inauguration. Sources told the outlet that Trump is planning to fly to Florida on Air Force One to stage a rally. Here's a good question for you. If he takes Air Force One the time that Biden sworn in, did he just not try to steal Air Force One?
Yeah.
It's not even his. He can't use it anymore.
That's about it, man. That's about it.
You better get the Trump plane out of mothballs if it can fly.
Right? Well, you pull that propeller hard enough, and why am I picturing the biplane or the twin engine plane from what was the movie with the Cleveland Indians? Major League.
Yeah.
You see them duct taping the propeller.
Duct tape. If it could keep a spaceship going, if it could keep a space station, intact, it can work on just about anything, right?
Hey, I'll tell you what. You shouldn't have any problem flying anywhere he wants, right? According to the Independent, Biden's already more popular than Trump ever was. This got to just absolutely kill him. President-elect Joe Biden has already become more popular than Donald Trump has ever been throughout his pregnancy. Jeez, oh man. I'm pretty sure if he was pregnant, he'd be more popular than Biden.
Yeah.
Through his presidency, with Biden achieving a 55% approval rating in the latest CNN/Gallup poll. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Gallup, but the figure shows a jump of 6 percentage points for Biden compared to polling before the election. Trump's approval rating is now down at 42%, compared to 45 November 3rd. So here we go again, guys. How many times do we have to keep throwing these same numbers at Trump? The same range of numbers at Trump all the time. It's always 42 to 45. Always been that way from day one.
Just wait until about, say, September, October, maybe November of next year, 2021, when COVID is basically under control to the point where the vaccines have taken effect. Things are basically going back to normal. People are going to be planning their Thanksgiving dinners together as families. Watch the popularity then. Watch the popularity then for Biden. It's going to be in the mid 60s. I'm going to say that's what I'll prognosticate. Mid 60s.
You think it's going to be that high? Boy, I hope so.
The lack of chaos alone should put it up 10 points.
Yep.
Yeah, you would think that just the lack of chaos is good for 10 points, right?
Because people are going to be happy to be with their families again. They're going to be happy to not be stressed again. They're going to see if the economy returns to just basic machinery running again and not worrying about all this crap. And like you said, you're not going to be worried about what's going to come out of our leader's mouth to incite violence, et cetera, et cetera. You'll have those idiots out there, 30% of the people that are just mad because their guy didn't win. But after that, it's going to be a lot of people just saying, you know what, it's nice to be back to normalcy again.
How many of those idiots you think are still going to be MAGAs come September, October? I mean, I understand there's going to be a lot of butthurt, but a lot of that is simply because the Republican lost.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these MAGAs you think are still going to be? Because it seems to me that just hear me out on this one, okay? Just hear me out, because this is going to be a stretch, but I promise I can put it all together, okay?
Who cares?
Trump to me seems to be he's like hair metal.
No,
right? It was all real popular, and all these people were all over it, right up until it didn't mean a whole lot anymore. Then it fell off a cliff. People got the enthusiasm, the excitement fell away simply because something else came around. And I'm wondering how much of that you're going to see. Again, like we said before, whenever he's no longer as relevant. Don't forget, come January 21st, he's as relevant as you and I are. Right? The only difference between us is, well, he has Secret Service around him because he knows national security secrets, and I'm sure that he's already shared with Putin. But what? Because he's a loudmouth? He's not going to get a television channel. He's not going to get on Fox Entertainment unless he's coming up our special guest. How relevant could he possibly be?
Yeah, he's not going to be able to call in like he's doing now.
No, he's going to have to be invited, basically, right? For the first couple months, he can call in whenever he wants. But again, let's go back to Frank's September, October thing. You think he can just pick up the phone and call into Fox Entertainment come September, October? They're going to have way too many other things to do. His relevancy is going to drop.
Yeah, they're going to be whining about Kamala by then, pretty much.
Sure.
But then they'll be able to figure out how to call her nasty names that don't sound racist. Give him 6 months. It takes these guys a while.
So part of my thought process on all this is probably predicated upon the belief that where we are right now with COVID is we're really entering probably just as dangerous a phase as we've ever been in with COVID, because we're on the cusp of the vaccine coming out, but it's not here yet. It's in England, and they're just starting it on a few people right now, right? We don't know when it's going to be widespread available here in the United States. Soon, but not right away. And even when it is, it's going to be about 50 million people out of 330 million, right? So basically 1/6 of our population will be vaccinated, essentially, right?
Right.
So we're going to have, no widespread immunity right away. We've got this widespread infection rate going on right now, and it's going to probably continue. Look, Rudy Giuliani just got it and was transferred from Georgetown Hospital to Walter Reed, which can't be a very good sign, right?
Right.
So the sad fact is it's going to be more widespread, and even those folks that want to deny the existence or the severity of this thing are going to be hit in the face with it. So, I know there's still going to be deniers. There's Holocaust deniers out there. There's going to be deniers of COVID. There's going to be that hardcore group of people. And we'll never get past that 30% of those people. But that still leaves 70%. And let's just say that of the 70%, 65% just like the fact that we go back to normalcy again. That's where I get my belief from. I just think that's where it's going to come from.
Oh, no, I think you're on to something. If nothing else, Lou, just the fatigue factor.
Yeah.
Just that. And I've actually asked people, isn't it nice not to wake up exhausted? I mean, he's gotten to the point where he's doing more damage now, or could potentially do more damage now than he's done in the last. He can do more in the next 30 days than he's done in the last 3 years. But yet he almost feels like a sideshow now. It's like he's already becoming far less relevant than he was 60 days ago, right? Whenever, I'm sitting here convinced as all hell that he's going to lose, and he was more relevant then. I find it hard to believe that other than his diehard, cult members.
See, there's a lot of shit that's going to happen. You talk about doing damage. Here's one real quick. Stuff you're not going to hear about from mainstream media. How about Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia legalizes workplace discrimination on his way out the door? So, what's that going to be? Just because you don't like somebody's religion or gender identity? Probably. I didn't have a chance to read the article. That would be my guess from these assholes. You're going to have, they're opening up the Arctic Wildlife Refuge. They're doing damage to the EPA. You're going to see there's probably more worker-related things that they're going to try and do for corporations. People don't realize how far these things go. They're worried about, two issues and not realizing how bad they're getting screwed on the other end.
Frank, people always have a tendency to look at the surface of the water.
Yeah. And it's not being spoon-fed to people. You're not telling them, the news media and, Fox News especially is not telling them what's the impact of all these decisions. What does that mean to you as an American worker, as an American consumer, as somebody who lives on this planet? What impact does this have on you? And without them being spoon-fed that by, the Rush Limbaughs or the Fox Newses of the world, how are they ever going to learn it?
And I don't understand how these places don't see the end game. How do they think that? And maybe it's simply because they're not thinking that far ahead, but that'd be foolish not to. How are they not thinking that 15 or 20 years from now they're going to be irrelevant? Why are they not looking at that? Look at who you're catering to, and let's just call a spade a spade. Look how old they are.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those people are going to be gone in 15 years? And with generations who just refuse to watch television, what are you going to do? Right? You're just starting to circle the commode just like everybody else is. You're just on the outer rim. You're just going slower, right? It's still spiraling down, though. Speaking of spiraling down, sorry, segue I had. Trump asked Pennsylvania House Speaker about overturning his loss. According to a lot of papers, this one I'm reading is from the New York Times. President Trump has failed to persuade elected Republicans in Michigan and Georgia to subvert the will of the voters, and his effort appears to have stalled in Pennsylvania too. Trump pressed the Speaker, Brian Cutler, on how Republicans plan to reverse the results of an election that Biden was certified to have won by more than 80,000 votes. He did ask what options were available to the legislature, Trump said. So he pretty much confirmed that he asked that. How is this even close to being legal? How is it even close? You have the president of the United States asking the chair of a state state Congress, who's the same party, hey, what can you do about that? That's the equivalent to saying, you got a nice house here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Mm-hmm.
How is that even possible that he can get away with this? And this is the third one that he's done it to that we know about. How the hell is he getting away with this?
It's a great question. And, you look at things like that, and it's all about just maintaining power, trying to grab power. He hates democracy. And the Republicans, apparently, who let him go on and on like this, even though they're denying his request, they clearly not protecting democracy by letting him go on and on like this. Marry it with the lack of a vision or a plan around the COVID relief. Americans are suffering, not having enough money, enough equity to make it through these winter months. Businesses are suffering. Small businesses are suffering. People are acquiring COVID disease, the disease itself, without, treatment or vaccines being widely available yet, without any plan about how to prevent it from spreading, or at least not being widely disseminated. No clear instruction from the White House about this. No instruction at all lately. You just have to look at that and say, it's clearly a coup attempt, and it's clearly a power grab, and it's clearly like F everybody's health and welfare and safety. Why is that being allowed to go on? Why isn't it just being called what it is? Widespread by every media outlet, every voice out there should be saying, this is dictator stuff. This is dictator level stuff where he's letting his people suffer and die, and the Republican Party's going along with it. No, they're not sanctioning, but they're not stopping him.
Silence is complicity.
Yeah,
it really is. You're either for us or against us, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And yet the continuation of a lot of dick moves. Trump announced Tuesday, which would be today, that he would appoint former White House aide Kellyanne Conway to the Board of Visitors to the U.S. Air Force Academy. He also announced the nominations of Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao. Is that not the Turtles' wife?
Yeah.
Yep.
And Lynn Freese, the wife of Republican megadonor Foster Freese. I can't even say that. Foster Freese. Wow. As members of the Board of Trustees of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts.
Jeez.
Here's my question. Why? Forget who he put where. Why? What the hell would Kellyanne Conway know about running? I wouldn't imagine it's a very difficult job, don't get me wrong. But what would she know about doing it? What would Chow know about running the Center for the Performing Arts, the JFK Center for the Performing? What would she know about any of that shit? So why are you putting them there? Are you paying them off?
I think it's partially a nod to these folks who have stood by him for all this time, but it's also to tie the hands of the new administration. Because if you know anything about these type of positions and these boards, basically it's hard to get people off of them. Okay, a lot of times you can't just walk in and say you're gone. You have to have, typically a lot of these positions, they have to have something like, a number of votes against them to get them out. They have to have, some cause to get them out. So, the transportation secretary, no, that might not be an issue. The new president coming in could probably just get rid of her. But a board of, visitors for the U.S. Air Force, that might be something that's a little harder to get her rooted out of there. They might have to have a number of votes against her, or they might have to have cause to get her out. And things like that just tend to be sticking points. They tend to be like, if you're going to take your eye off the big ball to mess with this over here, we're winning, essentially, because we've got you focused on this other crap that you don't need to be focused on. But yet that person's going to be a thorn in your side for the next couple of years. But there's a way to deal with that, okay? There's always a way to deal with that.
Well, I can't believe that all these positions were just suddenly open. But here's my other question, Lou. 2 days ago, Kellyanne gets on some network, probably Fox Entertainment, and acknowledges Biden's victory. And at the end of the interview, she says something along the lines of, "If he needs anything, he knows how to get a hold of me." That was 2 days ago. She left the administration. She wasn't working for anybody. She was on her own. She was making George dinner. Boys, that's sexist. I'm so sorry. But next thing you know, Trump, out of the goodness of his heart, gives her this position, even if it is, whatever. Should I say that's a hell of a coincidence?
Yeah.
Well, let's face it, if there's anybody on this planet that knows where the bodies are buried, it's Kellyanne.
And Elaine Chao.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's face it, Elaine Chao doesn't need a job.
No.
Her husband's doing pretty good. Right? He's done pretty good over the last years.
Her husband's poor compared to her father.
Oh, that's true. Maybe together they have to try to make up for it.
So, speaking of these kind of corrupt type things, have you guys seen what happened down in Florida with the woman who was keeping track of the COVID cases?
Boy,
I did see that. Yeah, I think Ron DeSantis is a little pissed.
What'd she say? He sent the Gestapo in after her, didn't she?
Yeah, isn't that kind of a banana republic deal from a governor?
Well, you know what? We're gonna go on this same line of questions that we've been having all night. What's going to happen to DeSantis if it? I mean, you got to figure this was bullshit, right? You got to figure it was. First of all, I find it hard to believe she was actually breaking into this thing, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I'll tell you why. I mean, this is kind of where I'm headed. If I'm good enough, smart enough, or whatever you want to say it, to figure out how to break into your system or to your whatever it is, I know enough to hide my tracks. And if I'm good enough to break into that, something that you created that I broke into, I'm smarter than you are.
Right.
Right. And their argument was, oh, they traced the IP address to her house? Oh, come on. Fucker, you can't trace the IP address to my house. Right? And I'm not even certified yet, and I trust you. I promise you, you have no idea what my IP address is. I promise you, you can't find it. Okay?
Plus, isn't there that thing where you can basically mask your IP address just by spending $39, $49 a month or whatever it is to just go back?
And you're set.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, if you're able to do all that, you know a whole hell of a lot more than just getting behind a VPN. You know how to bounce these things all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So come on. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Plus, he tried to deny that he even sent anybody after her. He's like, I didn't know anything. No, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. Did you see the film? Did you see the video? Because they posted the video because they have, like, I don't know if they have ring cameras or what it is. If they are, they're cheap ones because it was black and white. It's not nearly as nice as Lou's got a nice one though.
No, mine's color, and he even has infrared at night.
Oh yeah, you can actually see his asshole neighbor's Trump flag. And that's got to be what, 700 feet away?
Oh, it's further than that.
1,000 feet?
It's 1,000 feet at least.
Oh yeah, that camera will go further than his drone will.
It does. If I wasn't so cheap, I'd get that other drone.
I think I'm going to wait till after the weather breaks and pull. I got the room here. I might as well play around with them. But they have obviously security cameras, and you can see these guys coming in. I mean, it's scary. Then they're pointing their guns at the kids. For what? For what? What's the purpose? See, this is my problem. These guys, they're robots. You tell them to go and they go, and there's no thought as to why or if there's any reason that they should or not. They just do it. Think she has well, by the time it gets around to anything, it might be too late for her. But well, they just confiscated her equipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Oh, it's okay. Today she went out and bought new ones.
Yeah.
You know, and if she had half a brain, which I'm saying she does, she has all her shit backed up.
I would hope.
You want those? Go ahead and have them. Go ahead and take them. I mean, she's performing a service, and there's, she has a lot of valuable data that, and I'm not saying that she got on the slide, but the data that she's having, that she's sharing with people, is very valuable. There's no way in hell she's just letting it sit on a local hard disk. There's no way in hell she's doing that. So she'll be fine, other than she's probably traumatized, and her kids are traumatized for life now.
Yeah, and it's the precedent. It's she's traumatized, her kids are traumatized, and it's the precedent that it sets in terms of government action, against private citizens. And they're going to try to cloak it in this idea that she was a government employee and that somehow she had some duty or obligation to what, go along with the lies that they were telling. I don't know. It's garbage.
And yet I didn't hear one MAGA anywhere around even mention the fact that this happened. Not one. None of them even acknowledged it.
Was it on Fox News?
Boy, were you asking the wrong guy?
Same here.
Yeah. I'm guessing they haven't run it on their TV news yet. I'm guessing they got to put together their talking points about why, it should have been done, right? And once they get their talking points together about why it was right to do this, why the police should have been in there, confiscating her equipment, then they'll run a story about it.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right. It's so very difficult to fight whenever you are the state, right? It's very difficult to fight the state, obviously. I don't mean that, I mean, with the big letters, state. It's even harder whenever you have state-run television. Right? How do you do that? I mean, how do you, Lou? How do you fight against that?
What have we been saying for a long time? Messaging, fairness doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
The trouble is you can't do a damn thing unless you get the Senate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But in the meantime,
you have to have better. You know what? Let's face it. You need the one. Frank said it. I don't know when, a week or two ago. You just need that 3-word catchphrase, 4-word catchphrase. You can't. The big issue with the Democrats too is they overestimate the intelligence of the American population.
Oh, that's true. They do. Yeah, that's absolutely true. They do.
The attention span.
And I'll tell you the truth. I think that was probably Obama's biggest fault, is that he wasn't willing to recognize that at times he was the smartest person in the room. And I think that in a lot of ways they came back to bite him in the ass, because he would end up talking over people. And I think that was a problem. Hopefully Harris doesn't do that. I don't think anybody's going to confuse Biden with being the smartest person in the room. I'm not saying he's not smart. I'm just saying Joe's more of one of the guys type thing, right? Harris is smart. You hear 3 words out of her mouth. That woman's intelligent. She's very educated.
Mm-hmm.
I hope she doesn't assume that people around her are as smart as she is, because eventually she's going to run for president.
I mean, it's a tricky line to walk, right? You don't want to assume people are idiots, but you don't want to talk over the heads of people. So you have to. I think the concepts have to be boiled down to something that can be bite-sized. I think that there's a theory out there that, even difficult concepts, if they're spoken about or written about with language that is digestible to like a 6th grader, you can reach just about everybody. I mean, you could reach a majority of people with that. So it's important. I think it just keeps coming back to what Lou says: messaging. How do you message it? How do you deliver the message? The concepts can be very high-minded, but as long as you deliver the message in a digestible format, you're okay.
Lou, you were in an office with me, and how many times did you hear me say, whenever we would see plans, we would see markups, we would see things like this, and I'd always say, you have to do these in a way that like an idiot is reading them, right? You can't assume everybody knows what you know. You can't assume everybody understands it the way you do, right? I mean, Frank, you've done it with me. It just you know where your strength is, and you can't talk to somebody who's not in that strength with you in any way that is like on your level, right? You have to knock it down to a level that people can understand.
And that's what the GOP is good at.
Yeah, that's where they excel.
Mm-hmm.
They do that. They all stay in lockstep, and the messaging's easy that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Messaging's easy that way.
Yeah.
And then you got somebody that, you know, whenever they describe it, and they say, well, they like him because he says it how it is. Right? But yet he never looks at somebody and says, boy, you look good in blue. Right? So he doesn't say it as it is. He just says it in language that they understand. That's hard to fight.
Yeah, it is. And you go back to George W. Bush, and they used to say, well, he's the kind of guy I'd like to sit down and have a beer with. I feel comfortable with him because I could sit down and have a beer with him.
Yep.
So there's that lack of an intimidation. There's, you know, it comes down to that idea that some reason education's bad. Somebody that challenges you on a level of intelligence. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean like, let's stimulate the mind. Let's talk a little bit. I want to be challenged a little bit. You know, if I'm going to learn how to play chess, I want to play against somebody that's better than me, because if I play against somebody that's not as good as me, then how am I going to get better?
Right. How do you learn?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, here's what I learned. It's time for us to get the hell out of here.
The best segue of the whole day. And you had some good ones today.
That's fine. Well, you know what? So you go practice. You know, I had to make up for yesterday, right? Oh, by the way, I want to talk to whenever we get off offline. Let's call it a day, folks. We will be back on Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Anything anybody got before we wrap this thing up?
Quick stock tip: BlackBerry.
BlackBerry? Yep. Really?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll go into details on Friday, but for now, take a look at it.
Oh, by the way, that currency you were telling us about,
XLM.
I finally bought some. Do you know what the hell shit I had to go through in order to get on something to buy it? I was like, this is almost not worth it. And I'm going through. I was like, Frank, you better be right. You better be right.
Would you buy it through Coinbase?
No, I'll let you know who it was. It's what the hell was it? I actually have it on my phone. What the hell is this? Bittrex? Bittrex. That was the only one that I could actually do anything with. Coinbase, I tried. It made me jump through too many hoops. I'm sorry. I'm sitting at my desk at work. I don't happen to have a utility bill from my house there. So I was like, okay, you guys are out. Go on to the next one. Nope, you guys are out. So I was able to finally find this one. But anyhow, just let everybody know. Yes, I did buy into that.
All right. Well, good luck, and I'm hoping that, you know, by this time next year you'll triple your money on that one.
You know what? I hope so too. That's it, everybody. We are out of here. We will see everybody Friday. Until then, goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody.